Hello everyone, welcome back to Anime Mania once again. In Demon Slayer we've seen intense battles and powerful power-ups and breathing techniques throughout the seasons, but in today's video I am going to tell you what are the top strongest weapon in Demon Slayer universe, so without further ado let's begin. So the weapon that is on 15 number is Izetsu's Jumanji Yari. Izetsu is one of the clones of Hantengu that represents emotions, and every clone have their own special weapon, and Izetsu has a Jumanji Yari, and unlike Hatengu's other emotions, Izetsu doesn't harness the elements. Instead, he uses a Jumanji Yari, a traditional Japanese curved spear. He uses his weapon, which is generated from his flesh, in conjunction with his blood demon art. This allows him to massively extend its range of attack, and stay far away from his opponents in the process. Number 14. Inosuke's dual serrated Nichiren katanas. Inosuke's dual serrated Nichiren katanas are a unique and fearsome pair of weapons wielded by the wild and headstrong demon slayer Inosuke Hashibira. These katanas possess a distinct design that sets them apart from the traditional swords of the demon slayer corps. After receiving a typical sword, Inosuke purposefully chips multiple holes in the side, creating a serrated edge. This causes any cuts he makes to be messy, doing more damage than they might do if the cuts were clean. Aside from their function, they also suit Inosuke's beastly aesthetic perfectly. Number 13. Hinetsuru's large crossbow. In the entertainment district arc, in the final fight between Jotaro and Tengen, and in between the fight Hinetsuru, Tengen's wife suddenly attacked Jotaro with a weapon, a large crossbow. Hinetsuru may not be quite as strong as her Hashira husband, but she's a trained shinobi who can hold her own in battle. She does so using her gigantic crossbow loaded with kunai. These kunai are often laced with wisteria-based poisons, creating double the problems for any demons who are unlucky enough to be in its line of fire. Number 12. Shinobu's Stinger Nichiren Katana. From handle to hilt, Shinobu's weapon is just like any other Nichiren sword, but the top isn't a blade, it's a rod with a needle-like tip. Shinobu lacks the physical strength needed to lop a demon's head off in one shot, so she uses her medical knowledge and agility to inflict a variety of poisons on her targets. Her sword sheath is modified to serve as a poison mixer and loader. Number 11. Karaku's Uchiwa. As I told you in the starting that Hantengu's every clone posse's his own powerful weapon, Karaku uses his maple leaf-shaped Uchiwa fan. Karaku can generate gusts of wind that are so powerful they can totally incapacitate his opponents and demolish whole buildings. The one drawback to the Uchiwa is that anyone can use it, even though it's made from Karaku's flesh. This means that if someone else gets their hands on it, he's in danger. Number 10. Jotaro's flesh kama. Most demons make their weapons out of their flesh and blood, but in Jotaro's case, it's a whole lot more obvious. He does pretty much nothing to disguise their bloody appearance. Shape-wise, they resemble kama, a special type of sickle. These sharp sickles are great for both offense and defense, especially when he moves them through telekinesis. He probably got the idea from a similar pair of sickles that he owned as a human child. And have you notices in the final fight both Tengen and Jotaro using dual weapons, Nichiren blades and dual sickle. Moving to the next weapon. Number 9. Genya's double-barreled shotgun. Rather than a sword, Genya uses a barreled shotgun with bullets made from the same material as Nichiren swords. This allows him to stop demons from regenerating when he blows off their heads, and as I must say, it would be the best way to decapitate a demon's head. Well, let me tell you something, heads up for manga spoilers. After consuming a chunk of Kokoshibo's katana, the gun's appearance changes to a much more horrifying flesh-like state. It fires flesh cartridges instead of Nichiren material. Number 8. Sekido's Kakura. Using his own flesh, Sekido can generate multiple Kakuras, Tibetan staffs traditionally used by monks, but he doesn't use these for religious purposes. Instead, he uses them to electrocute his foes. Its electric shocks are so strong that they can paralyze, incapacitate, or even annihilate anyone they're used on. Number 7. Sohakuten's drums. Using a double-bladed dagger, Sohakuten strikes the drums on his back in order to unleash his blood demon art. This lets him use the plants around him to create massive wooden structures that can fight on his behalf. For example, while fighting Tanjiro, he unleashes a barrage of super strong wooden dragons. Let me tell you one thing, in my opinion, Sohakuten must have steel, Hashirama cells. He is just simply using wood, jutsu. While moving up to the next weapon. Number 6. Tanjiro's black Nichiren katana. At first, Tanjiro uses a standard issue Nichiren katana. This is an exceptionally strong blade that Tanjiro can use to channel both water breathing and sun breathing. However, he has a tendency to break his swords, which is what leads him to the Swordsmith Village. He ends up using a more personalized sword during the events of the Swordsmith Village arc. He uses the katana that he found inside of the Yorichi Type 0, and the flame-shaped hilt from Rengoku's former sword. Number 5. Tengen's dual Nichiren cleavers. Everything about Tengen Yuzui is flashy, and his swords are no exception. These giant blades look less like swords and more like connected nunchucks. They're so massive that they don't fit in a sheath. Instead, he carries them on his back and covers them with cloth. Up until he faced Jotaro, nobody had ever survived a blow from them. His large swords are perfect for his sound breathing techniques, because they generate large noises. Number 4, Mitsuri's Nichiren Whip Katana. Unlike most demon slayers, Mitsuri uses an extremely flexible sword that moves like a whip. This gives her a range of motion that would be impossible with a regular sword, making it the perfect conduit for her love-breathing techniques. Aside from Mitsuri, nobody else can successfully use this sword without cutting themselves, which means that if it's taken from her by an enemy, it won't be used against her. Number 3, Nekime's Biwa. Nekime's abilities haven't been fully explored in the anime yet, so watch out for spoilers. A Biwa might not look like a formidable weapon, it's an instrument. But Nekime uses her Biwa as a conduit for her incredible blood demon art, Infinity Castle. Using Infinity Castle, she can not only create the extra-dimensional castle where Muzan and his underlings reside, she can also control it completely, for example, moving the pillars to crush someone. She can also create portals that move targets outside of the castle, or to different locations within it, all of this with just her Biwa. Number 2, Abanai's Twisted Nichiren Katana. Abanai is a master of snake breathing, a technique that involves moving his sword in an unpredictable pattern that resembles the slithering of a snake. For this to work, he needs a modified Nichiren sword. His sword has a flowing shape that looks a lot like a snake's body. He also has a special scabbard for his sword, which is held together by magnetism and lets him unsheath his sword from a vertical position. Number 1, Gyomei's Nichiren Chain Spiked Flail and Axe. Instead of using a Nichiren sword, Gyomei uses an axe and flail that are connected by a long chain and resemble a kusarigama. It's made from the same material as Nichiren swords, and is so hard that even Kokushibo is unable to cut through it. Why use this weapon instead of a sword? Gyomei is blind, but the chain creates echoes that let him gauge distance. Apart from this, I will see you in the next video. Till then, subscribe for more anime content and theories, and thank you guys for 2,000 subscriber. Thank you.